Welcome everybody to the Skill Development Playbook Podcast. I am your host, Coach TJ. Season 6, episode number 1. Got an interview for you today. We have associate head coach of Yale's men's basketball team, Matthew Kingsley. Coach, we appreciate you coming on for today. Before we jump into it, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your coaching background, and how you journeyed up being associate head coach for the Yale's men's basketball.
Sure. Thanks, TJ, for having me on. And so I've been at Yale for 16 years, and I started out as a volunteer coach and worked my way up, and I've been the associate head coach for the last, I think I'm entering my 7th year in that role. So been at Yale a long time, and it's been an awesome experience. You know, to be at one place for such a long time, it gives you an opportunity to really focus in on a lot of different areas, and really, if you have the tools to do this and the players to go from good to great. So prior to Yale, I coached at a couple of small schools, including a prep school. I started out at Clarkson University. I coached there for a year. 2 years at St. Thomas More Prep School in Connecticut with Jerry Quinn, who's been a coach there for 45 years. And then 3 years at Eastern Connecticut. And then from there, I went to Yale. I played basketball at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, which plays Division III in the NESCAC against Williams, Amherst, Tufts, Trinity. I graduated from Wesleyan in 1998 as an all-time leading three-point shooter and second all-time leading scorer. So, but being at Yale, it's been a blessing for me. We have great players. We're able to recruit great players because of the place that it is, and that's a big part of it. Over the last probably 8 to 10 years, we've really been able to address different areas of the program and help our team get from good to great.
Yeah, because I saw on your Twitter bio, that your team has been Ivy League champs in 2015, 2016, 2019, and 2020. So you can see there the success that the program has had. And so I'm sure that there's some emphasis on skill development within your program. So let's talk a little bit about skill development. Tell us about when it comes to skill development. What is it, and how, or what's your definition of it, and how important is it to the game of basketball?
Yeah, I mean, skill development is half of it. One is your God-given gifts. Your athletic ability, your hand-eye coordination. Your intelligence, and then the other half is what you do with those God-given abilities. And so it's obviously very important. We don't at Yale typically want to rely totally on recruiting great players. We want to develop those guys. And so it's a big part of what we do. It really started to become an important piece of what we do probably 8 to 10 years ago. We honed in on it. We started running ball screen motion, and that gave us, a specific skill to work around. And it really is about, to me, just giving the guys a volume of reps within that one concept of basketball, ball screens. It involves guards and post guys, as well as the other 3 players that are spacing and or cutting, maybe moving off the ball in a different way. But it taught our guards And we've developed this over years, but it taught our guards, how to read the help, find the open guy, and then, if you don't get a shot off of the kick out, really attacking a closeout, you're applying the same skills as you were if you were using a ball screen. So once you attack the closeout off the ball screen, it's about reading help, finding the open guy, and the guys off the ball, they're basically doing the same things too. Whatever your scheme is or your game plan in that game, you might be spacing, sprinting out to reshape the floor and space optimally. You might have some cutting that you need to incorporate. If teams are really good at their closeouts or, they're long and athletic and they get to you, or they hug up on your threes. If they're more athletic than you and they can stay in front of you one-on-one, you might have to add some off-the-ball screening or cutting as well. And so everything kind of stems from the ball screens. So we typically work against all the different types of defenses that we're going to face. Hard hedge, flat hedge, when teams go under, switching, and then the switching and the ice defense, or when they down the side ball screen, that's more of a full team strategy to attack that defense. Whereas when teams hard hedge or flat hedge, it's really the guard and the post guy, working together to find a shot. But when you face the switch and the ice, you basically, what we do is we basically have like a full team strategy where everybody has to know what's going on.
Right. Okay. Now, when y'all are doing your skill development, and I know I sent you some questions, but I want to kind of dive in on what you were talking about right here. I think it's really important because I try to get coaches to understand that some of the best skill development comes from within your system, right? Not necessarily saying that it's bad to go to YouTube and get drills and things like that, but if you're running a ball screen motion, it's great to be able to break that down into actions, and involve 2 or 3 players. So when y'all are doing skill development, what's that process? Do you teach it to like the individual player, what you want them to see and understand, and then you add other players into it? Or do you break it down into small groups? Kind of, what's that process for your team when it comes to breaking down your offense for your skill development?
Yeah, we typically build it up incrementally. It's interesting because when you go 1-on-0, or you have a line of 3 guards with a small group, and you're just teaching them ball screen reads, they're going to be working on their own offense. If you're not going to use the other 2 guys in a group of 3, say, as guys spotting up, they're just working on their own offense. But the reality is, with ball screens, you're very rarely trying to make a play for yourself off of a ball screen. I would say that making a play for yourself off of a ball screen, that should occur, I don't know, a quarter of the time, maybe even less. 15% of the time. And so we do start out just with guys individually, and they work on their own offense in the ball screen. But even while we're doing that, we're emphasizing, hey, you're not going to be looking for your own shot necessarily in the ball screen, but when that is the play, all right, these are the actions we're going to start with. And so you take the defenses, and like I said, hard hedge, flat hedge, you can simulate those types of defenses, and the players can get their footwork down, matching up their dribbles with their steps, and get to the rim on the left side and the right side, shoot the mid-range, get to certain three-point shots. And post guys, the same thing. Have them pop, have them pop to the 3, have them pop to the 2, have them pop to the 2 and rip. and drive baseline. Have them pop to the 2, jab baseline, get to the middle, and shoot a jump hook. And so you're developing these certain skills every day, one on O, and then you're going to add another player. So now all of a sudden you do have your passing options, which are going to be the right play, 75 to 85% of the time. So if you're 2 on O with a guard spotting up, you're using a ball screen against the various defenses, and you're finding your teammate. The way you set up the drill is up to you. You can move the receiver of the pass around. Have them in the throwback spot, have them spotting up opposite, allow them to cut, and work those options in there. And then you can go 3 on O, add a post guy. And typically you'd probably go 2 on O, with a guard and a post before you do that. That would probably be the next step.
So let's talk a little bit about the 3 seasons, the preseason, in season, and off season. When it comes to your team's skill development, how does your skill development, your team's skill development, differ throughout those 3 seasons? Now, obviously, we know a heavy emphasis is in the off season with skill development. So let's start with in season. How much emphasis or how much attention do your team pay to skill development during the actual season?
Well, the preseason is primarily skill development. And then really, just like if you were to relate it to like a strength and conditioning program, during the season, a big part of it is just maintaining that skill level. So there's going to be certain staples that you're doing, or at least the way we do it, that we're doing almost on a daily basis with the guards, and that's related to getting in the paint, coming to a jump stop, and kicking the ball out. Coming off the ball screen and being able to find the passing window to get the ball to the post guy on a pop or a roll or a short roll. And cutting too is the other sort of habit that you have to stay on, throughout the season. It's just that, players have a tendency to pass and then stand. So if you got in the paint and you passed it, it's your responsibility to sprint back out to the perimeter, space the floor properly with your teammates so that the next guy has the same options off of his penetration, whether it's from a ball screen or a closeout or whatever. And then so there's cutting within the offense. If I make a pass off of a ball screen, just to reverse the ball, well, I got to cut from there to clear space for the next guy. If I stand or if I just try to fade out to the perimeter, my defender's probably just going to stay where he is and clog the lane up. And so we really try to emphasize cutting during the season as a skill that's not just for yourself, but for the benefit of our team. And then you're also going to have to evolve your offense throughout the season if you're going to be successful with the amount of tape that gets out there. I'd say 5 or 6 games. Good teams are going to be able to stop what you're doing.
Right.
And so, so they're going to see the major ways that you're scoring. They're going to take those away. And so then it has to become, all right, what are our next best ways to score? And then you got to get your players to understand that it might be hard to score the ways that they've been scoring. So these are going to be the next things that we do. And that could incorporate some new concepts that you might have to build into your practices. Hopefully these are things that you've at least touched on in the preseason. And that's the thing is like both in the preseason and during the year. This is a great way to keep the guys engaged and excited about what you're doing. Is if you're giving them new stuff that's trendy in the NBA, and just working on it. It might not be stuff that you're going to use right away, but get a look at it. they could feel like, make your players feel like, you guys are running cool stuff. And they get excited about that. It can be boring to run the same, bland stuff all the time. So we like to incorporate new and trendy action, study a lot of NBA film, a lot of European professional basketball film, and just see what those teams are doing with ball screens, and then work on some of that stuff. And then that's going to be a big part, at least for us, of how we evolve our offense going forward is, seeing what teams are doing to counter a certain defense. And then, hey, maybe by January, February, we've touched on it. We've tried to incorporate it into some of our drills. And just at the most opportune time, we can be ready to implement some of that stuff.
Okay, so what about, I know in the off season, you guys are really focused, off season, preseason, really focusing on skill development. I have a question for you because I asked this question on Twitter a few weeks ago. Got a few responses. Does your team like to focus on adding skills to players that's gonna fit your system? Like if you are doing, like you said, you got the on ball motion that you're running, and you may have a player that's going to shoot a lot of threes from the corner. So do you focus on that player really shooting threes from the corner and being effective out of that position? Or do you just try to add skills to that player to where they can play within your system?
It's both. It's definitely both. A big part of skill development is getting really good at one thing. And everybody's not good at ball screens right away. But if you have a great shooter, great. So he's going to help everybody out by being able to space the floor and knock down shots because teams are going to be scared of him getting open. So you want to make sure that he can do that for your team at a high level. But in our offense, which I think is very efficient and very versatile, we like all the players on the floor to use ball screens. And so if somebody doesn't really have great ball screen skills coming in, we'll work with them on it. And we want him involved with ball screens because we don't want just one player using ball screens because that's a very narrowly focused offense. It's going to be much easier for defenses to guard that than if you have three players using ball screens, which is how we do it. So we want all the players on the floor to be able to use them, the 1, 2, and 3. And, for that player that you're trying to develop his ball screen use, just start with something simple. And it's like, hey, I don't want you trying to do anything crazy, but when you come off the ball screen, all you're trying to do is reverse the ball to the next guy, right? We're not asking you to do a lot, but we want you using the ball screen. And, you're giving them hundreds and hundreds of reps, right? Where they get to see the roll man, even though you're telling them, hey, don't force it, don't try to hit that guy. Where they're able to see the throwback, don't force it, don't try to hit that guy. We're just asking you to come off the ball screen and reverse it. Or maybe they've showed an ability to throw it back. So it's like, all right, every time you come off the ball screen, I want you to come off the ball screen, get the ball a little bit centered to the middle of the floor, and then throw it back to your guard that was rising up. And that's going to be like 90% of the time that's what you do. Now, your players got to be good enough to do a couple of those minimal things. And hey, that's just what they do for a while. And then now they've added that dimension to their game, and then you can build off of that. And then again, like when you go through your options with your skill development, 1-on-0, 2-on-0, 3-on-0, they're still going to be coming off and going through the options, hitting the roll guy various ways, getting into the lane and kicking out off a jump stop, those sorts of things. And so you're essentially building their additional skills to use ball screening. and it takes some time, but they get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple more questions for you, Coach, and then we'll wrap this up. You had mentioned watching film in season when you're looking at your offense and trying to figure out different things that you can do. Do you use any film during your skill development with your players to kind of add that extra little bit so they can see where they may be lacking, things they're doing well? Do y'all use any kind of film during skill development?
Yeah, definitely. Film is huge. So we watch it all the time. We watch it in almost every way possible. We'll watch it as a full team. We'll watch it in groups by position. We'll watch it individually with players, and we'll watch practice film. We'll watch inter-squad scrimmage film. We'll watch game film. And you can have an area, you can have an area of focus. All right, we're going to go through our turnovers and see how we could have made better decisions here. Or we're going to look at, our transition and see what's going on. Maybe we're not spacing the floor or sprinting hard enough or something. What I like to do with a player in terms of what you're talking about as it relates to skill development is just look at all their touches and see, because they're going to be able to go back to that possession and remember, what happened from possession to possession. All right, what were you thinking here? Did you see this that was going on? Why did you make that decision? Well, and then you could, if you have a great understanding of your offense and what you want to get out of your offense, you can explain to them on every touch what they should be looking at, and where option A was and where option B was, and hey, this option A is a little bit too dangerous, so you need to be looking at option B right here. And just kind of lay it out for them on a touch by touch basis. And over time, they're going to get it. If you're good, if your team is good and you're seeing and the players are seeing success in what you've been telling them, and then, if you're sitting down and looking at every touch a player has and laying it out and also seeing that success where now you have evidence that it's working, they're going to eventually pick up on it.
Yeah. I've tried to use some film. So what I've been doing lately is recording them, and I know what I do is a little bit, well, it's the same as what you're doing, but you're in more of a team setting, and I'm in more of an individual type setting. But what I like to do is record them on my phone. I have a Chromecast connected to a TV. Once I show them, then I put it up on that screen, and I can, break it down and show it slow motion, zoom in, zoom out, highlight, add text, and all that different stuff, so they can get a better understanding of what it is I'm trying to instill in them. Sometimes I've noticed that players think they're doing things a certain way until they actually see it on film, and then it comes to light. It's like the light bulb comes on. So it's always a plus to use film. So let's talk about. We've talked about the 1-on-0, the 2-on-0, and the 3-on-0. What does your team or what does your program do to implement like some decision making? We know at the end of the day, every time a player touches the ball, they're making some type of decision. Do I drive it? Do I pass it? Do I shoot? So what do y'all like to do to try to incorporate, I guess the big term now is small sided games, or what do you like to do to incorporate some decision making?
Yeah. So, in sort of the next stage after the 3-on-0 is we're going to play some 2-on-2, and so now you're live and you got to make decisions, and that's typically we will go guard to guard 2-on-2. We will go post to post 2-on-2, but the major thing in ball screens is going guard and post versus a guard and a post. And that's gonna, you're gonna dictate the defense, to try to help them get reps against the various types of defense. So you might say, all right, we're going 2-on-2 against a hard hedge. Now that's going to be very easy for the offense to try to get some rolls for layup if you're hard hedging, and that's fine. The guards are still getting drilled at getting reps in live action at trying to find that window. Avoid deflected passes and so forth. And then flat hedge and switch and going under are going to be more competitive 2-on-2 games where the offense is going to probably have to work a little bit harder. And the emphasis there is just going to be, hey, let's get to a second and a third action. You're not necessarily going to get the best shot off of just one. And so we concentrate on stacking actions on top of actions with no pulling the ball out or no hesitation or pause. And so that requires a lot of effort, especially from the post guy who's going to be ball screening his butt off. But that's what you need in a ball screen motion is the post guys are really going to facilitate a lot of the offense and be on the move, looking to set the next ball screen. So, and then the major part is the 3-on-3, because that's just very game-like 5-on-5 situations that are just dummied down to 3-on-3, and you're just reading one help defender, right? So you have your ball screen player, you have your post guy setting the screen and doing what he's doing, and so there's going to be a defense against the ball screen, but it's what is that other guy doing? Is he over helping? Well, then I'm kicking out. Is he under helping? Then I'm going to try to find my roll guy because they don't have help at the basket. And so a lot of 3-on-3, teaching them how to make decisions, within that scenario in very simple settings. And you're just drilling that. And it's okay that it leads to easier shots because that's what you want the team to understand. What we'll tell our guys is we're looking to get layups and assisted threes. And so when you see them taking shots or making decisions that aren't leading to layups or assisted threes, you can always go back to that and say, hey, what is that getting us right there? Why did you try to make that play? And or why did you take that shot? It was too quick to take that shot. So we'll open it up for some different types of shots and be a little bit more aggressive. If we get under, say, 8 or 10 seconds on the shot clock. But prior to that, and even in transition, we're trying to get layups and assisted threes. And so how do we do that? We get into the paint and we try to draw help. If they rotate, we're kicking it out. If they don't rotate, we're at the rim for layups and hopefully foul. And so those would be good possessions. They rotated, I kicked it out. They didn't rotate, I went to the rim. I got hedged, I got the ball to the post guy, and now he made the same decision. I rip to the basket, they rotate, I kick it out. They don't rotate, I'm to the rim for layups and free throws.
Yeah. So all the coaches that's listening, man, you've given some great information on how you actually take your offense, break it down into actions, everything from 1-on-0 to 2-on-0 to 3-on-0, how you actually put all this together. And again, like I said from the beginning, this is the best way to do skill development if you're in a team setting. There's nothing wrong with going to YouTube. There's nothing wrong with going to other websites and getting drills. And those are great to do, to mix it up some, add a little flavor to your skill development program. But at the end of the day, you have to be good within your system and the way and the style that you play. And you gave some really good information on how your team have done that, and it's evident from the success that you've had or your team has had, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. So the last question that I want to ask, I feel like with me as a hired skills coach, I feel like this is very important. I know it's important for your program, and that's establishing a relationship with your players. I feel like, we've heard this before. A player doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So tell me real quick, or tell the coaches, our listeners, about how you establish relationships with your players to build trust, which I feel like then equals buy-in. So let's talk a little bit about what do you do or what does the staff do to try to build your relationship with your players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just time and effort spent. And if you're putting together film of, Bradley Beal because he moves really well without the ball and showing it to your guards, hey, you're good with the ball, but you got to get better identifying cutting situations and, spotting up and using screens. And so you pick out an NBA player, get a bunch of his clips, and show him that. That's time and effort invested in that player. So those types of things help. Typically, if I'm going to coach a guy, I just want to get in the gym with him, and I don't really want to comment on their game. This is how it works with freshmen, like from day one. Get in the gym with them and just shoot with them. And I'm not going to have much to say to them early on because I just want to see how they work.
Mm-hmm.
And, if we're just shooting, and I'm rebounding for them and passing it out, I'm going to watch them shoot at least a couple hundred shots before I have an opinion on anything. Because I'm not trying to change people's shots or anything like that. But I want to see what they're doing consistently and what they're not doing consistently. And so just watch them shoot. And I'm not going to have any comments until then. I think it's foolish to kind of just watch a kid shoot 3 times and then all of a sudden have this opinion on what they're doing and what their game is. You got to watch them for a long time. And I think that the guys appreciate that. And obviously that's going to require you to put some time in there as opposed to have an opinion after 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. But you're going to develop or you're going to identify inconsistencies in their game by watching them do the same thing, a couple hundred times. You might find out that they don't shoot it as well moving to their left as they do it to their right because, one leg is weaker than the other. So when they plant right left, they're right. If their right leg is weaker when they're moving to their left, when they plant right left, they're just not as consistent. And so those are the types of things that you got to watch your kids shoot the ball a couple hundred times to identify. They might drift to the side when they're moving to their left or whatever the case may be. So it's just time and effort spent, and I think that is going to help you develop the relationship with them. And then, there's got to be some success there too.
Yeah.
If you can have some success and they can see that they can be successful doing things the way you're suggesting, then you're going to have that sort of backbone to fall back on. You can't have guys, or you can't expect guys to want to do what you want to do when nobody in your program is successful doing it that way and your team doesn't win. So you do need to have those checkpoints where you have some success that you can point to, and then the guys become believers.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, Coach, man, again, you've given a lot of great information, and I appreciate you coming on here this morning, giving us some of your time. So is there any additional tips or advice you would like to share with our listeners on skill development before we let you go?
I guess related to the coaches, like I just said a couple of minutes ago, I really do like just spending time with the players and not having an opinion right away. Mm-hmm. And that's related to any sport. If you're coaching somebody who's playing baseball and, watch them take 50 or 100 swings before you have a comment on their swing after you see the third one. Or watch them throw the ball 50 or 100 times before you want to have a comment on their throwing motion. And I just think your feedback is going to be more well received by the individual. And then as it relates to the players, I heard somebody was saying on Twitter the other day, that maybe you're pigeonholing your kids in terms of their skills by teaching them your system, as opposed to teaching them how to play basketball. And I just think it's both. I don't think anybody has a system and they want the players to play within that system and then do nothing outside of that system. But if you don't start with something, then you're never going to get good at anything. And so, in order to get teams to close out hard to you, you got to get really good at shooting the three.
Right.
Otherwise they're not going to close out hard to you. And if you're not really good at shooting the three, you're not going to make the threes, and you're just going to lose games. And so you have to get really good at something. Like when you mentioned the 3-point shooter that can stay on the corner and make shots, that's a great attribute for that player, because he can build everything around making that shot in the corner. So now all of a sudden when he's open, he's going to get that shot. And now it's like, all right, let's build off of that. Teams don't want you to make that three in the corner. So when you do have an opening to get the kick out, teams are going to be closing out hard to you. So that's the next step. So now let's build a little game off of attacking a hard closeout, because teams are going to try to get to you quick when the ball's kicked to you. So now you can work on their game against the closeout. And now let's say, all right, you run them off some screens within your offense too. All right, well, you can shoot it. So they're going to lock and trail on every screen. So we have to develop a little game on curling around a screen, because that's how you're going to be guarded all the time. What can we do to try to get teams to go under? Can we trick them or manipulate the defense to get them to go under? And now you can get some opportunities to shoot behind the screen. But what's your game curling to the basket? And so you have to start with something. Yeah. And that could be an individual skill for a player. For a team, that's going to be where your system starts. But you're always going to be trying to branch off of that. Like I said before about the ball screens, well, it relates to attacking closeouts, because you're reading help and trying to find the open man. It relates to transition, because if you're 3-on-2, you're trying to draw one of those defenders to make 2 play 1, and then somebody's open. And so it all stems from the same thing. But you got to get good at, you got to have, get good at one thing first. And then that's when the floor will really start to open up for you as an individual and for your team, if you're good at one thing, and you can build off of that.
Yeah, I basically call that skill stacking. Adding a skill that complements what you do well. So just like you said, you got a good shooter in the corner. That they're going to close out hard. So that player now has to be able to add a skill that complements being able to shoot that spot up three. So attacking the closeout, or if you're going to run them off screens, they're going to lock and trail. So yeah, that's really good right there. So why don't you let everybody know how they can contact you or follow you on social media? You give them all your social media handles.
Yeah, I'm at Yale Kinger, YALEKINGER, on Twitter. I can take direct messages. I'm also on the Yale website, and you can contact me through that. And I appreciate you having me on, giving me a chance to talk a little bit, share some knowledge, and good luck with everything. And I hope the listeners can get something out of this.